do it. Starting now. Okay. Let's dive in. Where were we? Somewhere in my streams. Let's see here. Project file. This is the latest. Let's take a look. Today's stream may be... It's weird. If I'm unlucky with work, we'll be lucky that the stream will go long. And if we are lucky with work, the stream will be unlucky because I will have to hop and actually earn some money. But today, I'm not booked. I'm not even holding anywhere. But my agent is dutifully working behind the scenes to see, just to make sure that there's nobody out there who knows me or needs to know me that would hire me if they knew I was available. So it's a race against time for me to be productive in the meanwhile as best I can. Yeah, that's great. Painter is a great program. Close, and then it just doesn't close. That's great. I love that. Who needs a program that does what it's supposed to do? Definitely can crash when I don't want it to, so that's great. So this was the Landmola sketch we were working on last time. That was a few days ago. Where did we... So that's like the original rough sketch. You can see the composition there a little bit better, but the now all the new line work and the old sketch, they're not looking good when we put them right on top of each other. That's good. That means we're making progress. We've got guys over here. And now, ooh, today we get to draw Stalfos. These guys. Bony dudes. I'm wondering if somehow... Yeah, it looks like somehow all of my little link sketches got moved up or down from where I might have originally had them. That's not the world's biggest deal. What I'm drawing right now today are these skeleton dudes. Let's pull up some reference. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I don't mind having a little outside. Yeah, that's not the guy I'm drawing. The Legend of Zelda. This is the original kind of sketch. We'll just do a little screenshot. If you love Zelda, I've found zelda.fandom.com to be an excellent source of handy Zelda wisdom. I guess we can look at some of these other things. The original Legend of Zelda sprite looking like this, yeah. All these other versions. Pixel art really stimulates the, yeah, Link to the Past. Definitely remember that guy. Very stimulating to the imagination, because it's such an incomplete picture. It forces your imagination to kick in, do some work. Just like a sketch. Okay, well, we will use... We'll keep this little sketchy guy handy. Over here. Close this. As usual, I'll be trying not to dox myself by pulling up all sorts of revealing info or notifications, but I'm also not very good at doing that intelligently, so... I want to find this... So here's my drawing of Link. Link lines. So that's him right there. Okay, cool. Are all my links... Yeah, it's like all my links are offset. Somehow. Which one is not offset? Somehow they all got nudged around. Alright, well. I'll make sure I save out a different version. This guy looks like he's in the right spot. No doubt super boring to watch me hunt and peck around all this stuff, but this is the real behind the scenes. It's not always glamorous and sexy. Yeah, I don't hate this art, so I'm glad to see that. Oh, wait. Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman. I'm far better looking than Jason Bateman, and probably a better artist too. All right, let me welcome Zach. Lollywobbles, nice to see you. Zach is a buddy of mine in real life. He's a fellow storyboard artist too. What I've done recently is like less of a soft launch and more of a real launch of the Join Max kind of experience. So I'm now posting some of the stuff I'm drawing on Instagram and telling people other than my brother and unaffiliated strangers online that I'm even doing this. So a little bit of vulnerability there. If the music is too loud, let me know. If it needs to go up, let me know. If I need to turn things up and down, you know, I require this feedback. I take direction well. It's part of my it's part of the package. So if you I'm better today. Okay, that's good. I don't know if I did anything different, but usually you can't hear me. Okay, I'm actually trying to enunciate a little bit better too. I'm glad to hear things don't suck right now, and that'll change, no doubt, because disaster strikes very easily around here. But the chances of a quiet stream have faded now. We'll have some accompaniments. I'm going to flop this image of the skeleton so that I can sort of see it from a perspective that will more or less match this guy. Yeah, I'm soft-spoken, like, when I don't think anybody's there and I just mumble. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm talking to myself, so I'm just mumbling. Now I'm gonna have a chance to hone my entertaining skills and do douchey things like say, this stream is brought to you by our sponsor, Caffeine, here in the shape of coffee. And I have a reasonably sized Coca-Cola to back me up after that. And then if I still get thirsty, I've got some San Pellegrino that is left over from the fabulous storyboard party that Zach went to. Helped me co-host, actually, so... Yeah. No, I've definitely gone through my failed streams where the entire thing is basically no audio. And or music's too loud and volume, you know, terrible stuff. Or I'm probably streaming like the wrong screen and you can see all my emails and bank statements. I've definitely had shit like that happen, so. Now I'm super distracted, so I won't be able to draw. But I will probably get into more of the mode of ignoring and trying to focus on what the task at hand is, which is essentially seeing through the design of this, which is this cool dynamic action. This is heavily inspired. I should pull up for reference. Link Battle Stalfos. Let's see if I can come up with the reference image that inspired this initially. Because I did this one pretty early on. Definitely have it somewhere in my, I don't want things to get too stale on the stream or anything like that, but I have many Zelda screenshots. Might be good. No. I'm looking at things on my other monitor to see if I can pull up the reference, because one of the realities of this stream is some things are attempted to be honoring original Zelda art. Yeah, here we go. So this, hey, for once I actually had what I was searching for. This was an let's see here. Saw some and wondered if they were photo bash. There is no photo bashing here, my friend. We do not trace. We do things the hard way on my streams. The slow and hard way. But it's probably more educational because I'm doing it slower. And so one of the things that is educational about this stream is that we can take these original Zelda arts and kind of identify things that are working and or not working compositionally, and maybe they can be improved or enhanced for a modern audience kind of approach. So here we've got a very good drawing, very dynamic, of Link battling two Stalfos, and this art is probably 30 years old. So the self-challenge I put to myself was, how can we crank that up to 11 if we had to. And so this is that. This is me attempting to honor this, but you can tell, for instance, the aspect ratio is different. You can't just one-to-one this stuff. So the composition needs to change. I wanted more action. I wanted, while honoring the original theme of the thing, but you can see I've got some flying bats involved as well. Those are geese. That's the name of the bats, and he's being attacked from both sides a little bit more simultaneously, as well as we can see some figures lurking in the background, and it's very poorly indicated, but over here, this is actually one of those eyeballs that shoots lasers, like the statue eyeball things that shoots lasers. So there's multiple fronts of action and dynamism happening here, where things are happening very much in Z space. It's happening here in Z space as well, like very much so. Like there's definitely a sense of that. But this is my take on the same thing. And so we've got so far. So Zach, you're a storyboard artist, and I didn't used to share my techniques with this stuff, but one thing that I do when I'm on big projects, or where I can have a sense of how I'm going to pace myself over a project, is I'll go through and I'll draw the principal characters in finished line first, then secondary characters, then props, then actually first I'll draw branding. So like if there's a Coke bottle, I'll draw that. Basically, I want to make sure I prioritize the level of finish first and foremost, like before I'm tired at the end of the day. So at the beginning of the day, when I have all my energy, I focus on drawing the most important things. Then at the end of the day, all that's left are like backgrounds or maybe a little shading. So the least important things are the things I'm drawing at the end of the day. And there are other benefits of this too, but it's not going to really apply to this. What this project is not actually at this stage. It's not so much storyboards. These are more like story moments or like key art that like later on I can have a poll and we'll see what things make sense to extrapolate into actual storyboard sequences where we can see the beginning, middle, and end of an interesting scene. So this Stalfos battle scene could be something that takes up another 20 frames, but here I've sort of condensed it into a single image that tells the story just in a single moment. And the rest of these all do the same thing in different moments. So, and Zach, I don't know if you're a Zelda fan, and if you're not, you're torturing yourself probably going through this, but that's the subject matter at hand. This is a theoretical sort of sort of theoretical case study of how I might handle this type of work if it was something that has hired me, which it hasn't, disclaimer. So, Zelda by osmosis. Zelda manages to be in sort of its own genre, and I have standing to tread my feet in this pond, because not only am I a very well established storyboard artist on video game trailers in general. I just got off a cool Batman trailer actually, but this my dad used to write for the original Zelda cartoon like 30 years ago or something like that. And the other day I was hunting around in my bedroom and I found this, the original shield that my dad, like, I was a fan of his work on the show and the video game, and he made me, it's really weathered and fucked up now, but it had a handle on the back. This was for a 7-year-old, which I was at the time, and it had red tape around it. Basically, it was designed as the original Zelda shield, but for like a kid. Like today, you can buy toys for Zelda toys online. Even adults can get them. But back in the day, there was no such thing. My dad made me this toy, and I was able to pretend I was Link in the backyard. Isn't that sweet? So I've got a lot of standing to say, hey, if anybody can do this sort of project, it's me. Yeah, he worked. He didn't work on the game. He worked on the show. He was very involved with a lot of how properties from comic books and video games were then translated into so toys, comic books, and video games all got their good shot at doing cartoons, and he would be on projects that would be making that bridge over. So there was another cartoon like Wildcats or something in the 90s. My dad worked on that project, and Savage Dragon. These are not all, huge, hugely wildly successful properties necessarily, but he worked on Beast Wars. He worked on, and of course he wrote several of the original Zelda cartoons. So that's very cool. Hi, Adam. The mighty Adam. Another first-time chat. Now, if I know you in real life, Adam, because I may have tipped my head too much with telling people in the real world about my streaming adventures lately, but I was just telling some cool stories about my youth involvements with Zelda, and yeah, so this is just something I'm involved in. So we're gonna draw some skeletons today, blasting Link. And one thing that I like is that this original reference image is good reference for, where can I put it where you'll see it? I taught myself how to do a front handspring because of that Zelda cartoon. Very cool. Maybe one day, this would actually be pretty fun, is I could bring my dad in, because he's quite a character. And we could stream an old Zelda cartoon, and I could tease him about this or that scene, and he'll rant about like how the animators fucked it up, and he wanted this to be like that, and he's like that. He's he sees it very clear in his head, and he's a former storyboard artist himself. So when he became a writer, he knew what he was trying to do with stories, so it must be immensely frustrating in that position. But I'm glad we've got some Zelda fans in the audience, and everybody's welcome to be in the audience. I don't mind it, as long as we're behaving ourselves. So, all right, let me take a big slug of coffee, and I'm gonna start drawing. Excuse me, princess. Yes. Yeah, that is the cartoon feels like it's like universally hated these days, or maybe it's redeemed itself or something by now. But I know I remember being less. I was always sort of like, hey, my dad worked on that cartoon. They'd be like, oh, that cartoon sucked. And I'd be like, okay, I guess you think that. Sucks that you think that. Alrighty. Now here, I guess I was drawing with black. Don't always do that, and I don't know if I will do that here, especially since I'm just starting cold. Yeah, go fight the AI, man. That's I'm the good Zach, just to the reality. The other reality of me doing this stream is I've noticed is that like people doing impressive artwork online now are getting called out. Like, hey, is this AI? And I'm, you know, it's like, obviously, like, how do you prove you're not doing something with the aid of AI? So all of this, like, without exception, from top to bottom, has been live streamed from empty blank page to, you know, obviously this is the work in progress, and then when they're finished, but the whole thing is documented via stream, and, you know, I've downloaded them all, I'll put them on YouTube. So, you know, some of this stuff, some people have actually started liking my stuff on Instagram too, so it feels like people are starting to notice, and that's cool. I don't actually really care. I don't want this to blow up, because, you know, people online could be toxic. That's not really something I need all this attention about, but I earnestly want to, if I can, get cast on the crew of the Zelda movie and do storyboards for it. That would be cool. It'd be on my bucket list. So this feels like it's a proactive step, and at least if I'm not booked today, I can do this. So, okay. So, all right, now drawing. I'm going to ignore what's there. I love everybody who's here and commenting, but I'm going to draw now. I'm going to try to ignore a little bit what's there. But I will talk about the process a little bit. Okay, because the lines here on Link are a little bit too, like, I appreciate seeing, or maybe you guys do appreciate seeing the line art there. I'm gonna really knock it back on the opacity, because it's distracting from my focus to see clarity over there, while I need to see, I need to conjure up the visual of this Stalfos coming into my imagination, making it real. So the cool thing about skulls is they can have a lot of variety of shape, and especially like monster skulls or bad guy skulls, because you can get away with a lot of mistakes. They don't have to be perfect. So here you can see I'm rotating the this image. And Zach, this you know, I've talked to you about how I use templates with tons and tons of boxes on them, as opposed to drawing individual frames. And I swear by that. I swear it will. It's not necessarily a compatible approach with everybody's physical computer, because it does require a lot of memory and stuff. But it's something that will help contain consistency from image to image, and that's just one of the many things that are helpful for it. I also think it's faster than closing and opening images constantly. I also, if you follow along with me here, you'll see that I really only use one brush, and I don't, well, I have some brushes I use for like effects, like particles and stuff like that, but everything you've seen here pretty much is one brush and an airbrush for very smooth gradients. And I do have a hybrid kind of brush that sort of splits the difference, but I don't go around resizing or unsizing or switching brushes much. All of that takes time, and time is precious, especially with like storyboard deadlines. On this project, I don't have a deadline, so I take my time, and my approach is kind of different than it would normally be. But that's just a little peek behind me in the thinking. Look at all these disgusting layers I have here. This is no way to organize your project, but I don't feel like it's not, oh god. Hold on. Work. Let's see here. What does this say? Okay, this says, we're finally getting news. How does Max's schedule look like today and tomorrow? I don't have full notes, but it sounds like there's some rework, but not major reworking. Okay. Well, they'll need me, but not yet. So let's try to draw something for a little bit at least. My agent knows I'm available today, so she'll say, let Max know, so they'll let me know. Okay. Sometimes I draw with black, but sometimes, especially recently, I like to draw with like a middle gray or dark gray. And I'll turn on multiply for the brush blending effects. And what that'll allow is information to sort of build up as opposed to simply overwriting. And you can have interesting effects that way. So here I'm just scribbling. I'm not drawing on the skull here. And then what this can do is, because I didn't use black straight off the bat, I can go in there later and use some dodge and burn effects to create shading within those lines, which can be a very finessed approach to sort of hybrid drawing and painting. Okay. The tool I'm using is one of my own devising, and it has the ability to get big, small, or like draw individual long strokes like that, whole sections like that, depending on how I'm angling the pen. I use a classic form, Wacom. This is a little old school, but it just fits my hand well and feels like a normal pen or pencil. So I prefer it that way, but I don't mind using the other tools that they have. But more as backups. They didn't need to keep reinventing that shit. Another thing I do is I have my sensitivity on my Wacom devices cranked much higher than I've noticed other artists do. They usually put their sensitivity really low so that they end up pushing and straining like their whole bodies into their hands and their pencil and their devices, and they wear their nibs out. And I'll have a nib and it'll last me years. That's how I know I'm doing it at a much softer touch than everybody else. That would be my advice if anybody's an artist watching, is learn to draw with a softer touch, because digitally you can get away with it and you're going to save that wear and tear on your body. This skull and skeleton character is, in reference to the viewer, nearly upside down, and it's a monster type of bad guy. So we can get away with all sorts of cheats here. We don't have to pretend like any of this has to be right. But I've also done enough studies of skulls. I did my homework, at least back in the day I did, to know that there are all sorts of interesting protrusions and nooks and crannies that happen. The fissures, those are all fun to draw, but I don't want to get all sucked into that. Like, all those are like small details that if I focus on those first, see, if I'm autopiloting, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to think about like, oh, well, the line needs to go like this. You know, I'll draw every little nook and cranny as it goes like this. And if you do that, your drawing's going to look like shit. You have to really think about the bigger forms first and how they flow together and fit. And you can use a light touch to start. Your audience will be more impressed with how you unify forms than how you separate them. They want ultimately for you to take a complicated subject and simplify it so that they can understand it in an instant. And even if it's not even something that makes sense, like it's abstract, they still can have clear opinion about it, even if it's clear that they don't like it, they can at least be in a position to make a decision about the thing. That's the kind of design that we shoot for here. Making real finite choices about where we're making lines. The initial rough sketch was really more about drawing energy. Potentiality. Now we have to make decisions that feel concrete. They don't have to feel perfect. We want to keep that sense of energy and also a sense of a little bit of mystery. We can't just lay it all out like it's perfectly there. So even here where I'm drawing the teeth, I need to resist the impulse to do that. That comes later, those types of details. I really just want to feel like I have a strong sense of structure. Like the image makes sense. Will be very clear to a 3D artist or another person in a pipeline who receives this image as a reference on a production. Will not hate me as someone who looked like they solved problems but actually didn't. Now here's something I'll confess, is I am not perfectly knowledgeable about how many vertebrae need to be in this neck. It's probably like 5, or I'd guess 5. I know that the top vertebrae is called the atlas, this little bone right there, but I don't know what it looks like. The jawbone is the mandible. Zygomatic arch. All these different things. Problem solving. Huge part of storyboarding doesn't get mentioned enough. Yes, exactly. That's why I'm hopeful that AI won't exactly replace us. We'll have at least a chance at some job security as a industry, but not all projects need storyboarding in the same way. I think storytelling needs storyboarding if it's visual. But that doesn't mean they won't try and replace us. Try and fail first. If we can demonstrate, here I'm drawing a clavicle, we can demonstrate that we are worth all that we cost, that we save money ultimately instead of money down the drain, saving money by solving problems before they occur, or giving the director powers of prognostication, right? You can see the future or predict things. Prognostication. There are some very interesting geometries that are at play as the spine comes out the back of, or the ribs come out the back of the spine. Let's say that this is the rib cage. It can do, this will be, let's say this is the sternum, these are the clavicles, scapulas. The ribs can do strange things where they'll go up and then curve around and go down like this. It can look like that. And that's weird geometry for like an artist to think about, like in terms of Z space. And now taking that, and now I'm trying to view it like mentally project my mind as a camera at this angle where the skeleton is like tilted back towards us. So difficult. But I want to try, instead of just saying fuck it. So let's try to have a sense of that happening. And I think we're getting to the limit of what this sort of that tilted view, or the rotatedness. At this point, the rest of the body is going to be decently oriented where I can draw it better if I look at it this way. I definitely want some of these things to have a clear overlap. And if I have to erase, I can acknowledge if I make a mistake, I can go in and fix it. Don't have a deadline that has me panicked about ignoring quality control. This can be as good as I want to make it now. But you can see, even if the geometries are not perfect here, you can see there's a sense of ribs here that are overlapping. This spinal column needs to have a tighter curve because it's going to go like that. Basically, this is the back of the pelvis over here. So he's sort of bending backward. There's a lot of thickness to the these ribs they insert at the side with those articulations, not directly at the back. That's interesting. Need a little more space there. When I draw and I'm thinking, I often put my tongue to my lips. It's kind of like this stabilizing thing. A lot of artists have these subconscious facial constrictions that they do. My mother, who doesn't smoke cigarettes, goes like this when she draws. And because of, she makes this kissy face while she's drawing, like she's mulling things out. She's like sort of, maybe it's this, or maybe I'll draw it like that. She has these smoker's wrinkles around her lips, which are unjustified given the fact that she doesn't smoke, which is good, but that stuff catches up with you. Another thing I used to do is I used to flare my nostrils. I'll get like very, it's probably more subtle, but ultimately we're trying to have control when we can't control things, you know, with our pencils. That impulse for control goes elsewhere. It's like the analogy escapes me, but something feels like it's stabilizing while we're trying to do something else. Like a person who is on a tight wire on a unicycle will have that long piece of pole or something like that. It feels like it's helping them stabilize. Just an idea as to why that might be happening. If you draw, you might notice that too on your face if you pay attention to it. Let's see. Quickly chat at 12:30, then follow up with any questions via email. All right. Well, then we have a 12:30 deadline today. We'll go as far as we can. Like a good luck charm, this stream seems to attract work, which is unfortunately distracting for me. Okay, so at 12:25, 20 minutes or so, I'll have to hop. That is a shame, but probably best case scenario since I do have to earn a living. I've had a lot of luck. It shouldn't, I mean, I don't recommend people become superstitious. Yeah, if you find a side pursuit that you are in danger of loving more than your main pursuit, what will happen is your main pursuit will become a time thief to your true whatever your true passion is. The thing that you're trying to evade will. So it basically, if you treat work as if you don't want it to happen, you will attract more work. And what a shame, you know, that you have to earn a living that day. In hard times, that is a good thing. There are times, or have been times for me, where I would have welcomed more downtime. These days, like that hunger I had when I was younger, that hunger is back, baby. I'm 100% in it to fight to survive, just like everybody else these days. Layoffs. Just today, I had an editor whom I've worked with many, many times on many game projects. He's got a kid on the way. This is a hard reality, but we were on a project for a long time. Seemed really lucrative. Seemed like it was gonna keep us busy for years. That was basically the everything was going well. Everything was right. Zach, you are aware that I worked on the Apex stuff. So this was Apex, and that was a project that it just seemed like they wanted all of our time, all the time, and that was great for me. And you know, it helped me at a time when I was very, oh god, how do you draw scapulas? Yeah, I thought you knew that, but I definitely, with the exception of the latest trailer that came out, I had worked on previous, like the previous, none of the ones they did at the mill, but they produced them somewhat internally at PsyOp, and eventually had them. You know, a lot of the stuff was essentially outsourced as far as like real production, but the storyboarding and editing, they had me on that, and that was good work for me for a long time. But they moved on after promising. That might have been the case. It was a while ago. Maybe I thought I had it on your radar. I posted something on Frame Dump and then thought better of it, deleted it quickly. I thought you had posted a comment where you had seen it, but it matters not. While that was a good project, the scapula is such a fucked up little bone. It's like so crazy. I think it looks like this, like from that angle. Because there's pockets of meat and things that it's a floating bone. It's got things that will connect to the clavicle on one end and the humerus on the other. Oh, so hard at this angle. Later on, I can draw pilots. I've definitely drawn a few pilots. I did the one later on. You'll come into my stream another time, and I'll dig up some Apex stuff and I'll show you. It's not really so much I want to like disseminate it online, because you know you sign all these NDAs, but then you know that particular spot was 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, are these life sentences, these NDAs? I don't know about that. Especially, and what loyalty do I owe them when they haven't hired me in, well, 6 months on that project? And they could have. I understand, like, you gotta make business decisions and stuff, but they could have at least let me know when they didn't hire me, instead of letting me find out the hard way, well after the fact, with no information to indicate otherwise. There certainly were no, like, when I found out, like, they had moved on. They're like, we went in a different direction, was the director's words, which you know, that sounds lovely, right? Directors went in a different direction, as they do. I don't hold it to that. I honestly think this was a budget issue, because I'm not cheap, but I don't want to say assurances were made. That's not the case, but I had every indication to think that when they said it's going to come back later this year, so look forward to that might have indicated that they intended to hire me back. So then when they didn't, and they didn't even let me know about that, that was a bruise to my ego, man. So what I'm drawing here is this is the scapula, which is separated now because the humerus, which is under the shoulder blade here, has been severed from its joint. And these are just like chips of bone that are flying everywhere from this sword. Draw some bone. Yeah, I've got a lot of mileage with Apex that I don't post it on my site. I'm not trying to burn any bridges with EA. They're doing their own, like, EA's doing all their, yeah, I worked on all the, fuck it, let's pull up some YouTube. Apex Legends. I mean, do you have like, I didn't work on the really cool ones where, like, Revenant is, like, killing everybody and stuff like that. Good, I'm glad you love that game. Let me pull up some drawings. That'll be more interesting than me drawing a humerus. Work backups. Here, I'll just search for Apex, and you'll see, like, so much shit. And that was, you know, there were so many, you know, not to, I mean, there's no, I'm too professional to have any, like, emotional opinions about this stuff, but, like, and dude, every fucking drawing I do is perfect. Like, look at this stuff. This is from not the latest trailer, but the one that was previous, where it was all in first-person perspective. Worked on Mirage. Oh, I've got thousands of Mirage drawings. I didn't work on the Mirage. Like, he was one of the original legends, so he doesn't. Okay, here's a. Like, here's a couple Mirages. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here. Like, here's Mirage and Pathfinder hanging out. Like, you can see this stuff, right? I'm Mirage. I'm Mirage wishes he was me. Mirage wishes he had this hair. I've got a lot of cool Mirage drawings. Where would it? You know, I'm gonna scroll. You know, I could do this over here. You could just see me scrolling through shit over here. You can practically see this like an animatic. This is the this is like from one of the spots that aired recently. And this is all aired. Like, at this point, none of this... Some of this is maybe a little behind the scenes, but all of this is aired. So this isn't, like, too much to show even online. That said, like, don't screen cap and publish any of this shit, because this is your eyes only, baby. Yeah. Man, the original... So if I could pull this up, let's see here. Into the Void, fuck that. Yeah, like, I'm a little bitter about how they moved on without me, but not in a way where I'm like I'm bitter because it's a blow to my ego that it felt like I was replaced. Not like I hate the people who hired me, and like, it's not like that. Those people are great. It's but I have some ownership in what felt like a successful, I think at least justified, success of how all that was going. I was not a small part of it. On some of these projects, I was literally the only storyboard artist on it. So it was me and directors and the editor. Who was the editor I was talking about earlier? Trailer. Okay, yeah. I mean, there's all cinematic launch trailers. I wish it was easier to just find the stuff I was looking for. Oh, this was a cool one. This was probably the best one. Was this one with Ballistic?
Son, if you're watching this,
I don't know if all this is like getting out there. Like all this. There was a good another good storyboard artist who was on this with me. But like all this shit, like that was a fun one to draw. You got respect for me. I respect you for recognizing the creative talents that are behind the scenes. I promise I'll dig up some cool shit for next stream, or have it on standby at least, because right now this stuff is buried in my archives, and it's really disorganized, so it's not something that is going to be helpful to bust out. But the reality is the video, like the same as film and television have had a contraction, the video game obviously have had the same layoff. I mean, I can't expect them to be hiring me realistically if budgets are an issue when EA is laying off people. And they have their own justifications, of course, but it's like really entrenched game devs who probably have way more reason to be hired back than I do, are not being hired back. So who am I to complain? At least I've got other commercials I can work on, and that's one of the other ones that's gonna be bugging me in about 15 minutes. So yeah, so I'll do a little side quests with some of that Apex. I mean, like, if you want me to draw like something Apexy later, or on another stream, you can totally just say like draw. You could challenge me. You could say like draw Pathfinder from memory, or draw Horizon from memory. By now I have a lot of that stuff memorized. But it would be a challenge because it's memorized for me like spiritually, but realistically I haven't drawn it in over a year, in probably close to a year. Last summer was the last one that I worked on. Okay, I'm not going to pretend I know how many bones exactly make up the base of the hand, but they're carpals and metacarpals, and then the phalanges. Drawing of good hands starts with the drawing of hand bones, in my opinion. Phalanges. So here's a little bit of fun fact: is to this day I've never played Apex. Never, ever, ever played it. So that's if it was anything Apex cutscene from the year 2020 through 2023, I probably not only worked on it, but was like the principal storyboard artist, at least as far as like those cutscenes go. Apex, they'd have a lot of content. So they would do comic books, and they would do 2D animations, and the most recent one was a 2D animation. I had nothing to do with that. That was one there where they went in the different direction on it, and it looked good for what it was. And I was not. I don't disparage the at all the way that they went with it, and in fact they probably did a better job with it than I would have done. Because they had kind of an anime style with it, and that's not something I can say is demonstrably my forte. Would I have adapted and risen to the occasion? Of course I would, if I was hired to do so, but I was not given that chance, so we will move on. Oh, who knows what those bones look like. Huge feather in my cap. Yeah, I'm happy enough to have been a part, and I could say I had a non-insignificant part to it, but that's the part of the biz that no one well, once you get into it and you're doing well, you just realize it's like, oh, the reality is this is a job like anything else, and unfortunately it's not always fun, and there's egos at play. No one on my end or anything like that, like with my directors. Everybody, honestly, the projects went well once they sort of got to us. There were times where we'd be like, okay, we're getting another script rewrite. That's interesting. So there was one thing, and I don't think it's not unfair to say this, was that the EA acquired Respawn. And that wasn't necessarily everybody's favorite thing that happened. on the acquisition side was kind of it felt that way when we would be hired by EA, but then being given notes from the people who were also involved at Respawn. It almost felt like it was not appreciated that creative minds outside of it people who are, I think justifiably, people who are very close to a creative product and have seen it grow and care about it, are understandably concerned and wary about outside intrusions, and all that. Like, I get, and like I said, never played Apex, but I know story, and so it was frustrating because like a lot of good story ideas would get nixed for reasons that, of course, they make sense internally, but they have their own. See, they can see the whole deck on their end. Like for me, I have to guess at what makes sense, and who knows why they were turning down some ideas but going ahead with others. It could have been that, unbeknownst to me, something felt like a better idea to go with a different character that wasn't even released yet, or something like that. That's just all speculative as far as what I'm saying right now. But there's 1,000 reasons why it's difficult to do projects that are NDA. Like, there were a lot of inefficiencies with having to redo things where wouldn't it have been nice to just have clear access and communication to exactly what the clients wanted earlier on? But it never happens that way. So that's nothing to be different about the EA or Apex experience. This stuff is often put together with people who are new to the projects, and in my case, we were lucky actually on a couple of the projects to have a storyboard artist who actually was a fan of Apex, and he was very instrumental in getting some what felt like appropriate touches, for like, of course Mirage would do this. It would, like, he was very good at finding gags that were appropriate to the character's lore, whereas I mostly just tried to think about storytelling from the perspective of a non-indoctrinated audience, because, like, of course it's easy to get someone to like something if they already like the product. If a new person is like, I come from advertising. Our audiences are adversarial. They don't want to watch commercials. We have to make them amazing because of that. So I'm trying to make a story make sense for someone who doesn't know what Apex is, someone like me. And that was my approach to it. I don't know if it was the best approach. Maybe it wasn't, but I couldn't have done other. So that's how it went. Every time I lose a job or client, it makes room for something better that I didn't know I wanted. Even the jobs I enjoyed got played out and weren't thrilled as in the beginning. Yeah. There's this honeymoon phase where things are awesome, and then very quickly afterwards, it becomes like, oh god, this is gonna be hard, isn't it? So I'm not sure how many ribs are realistic to have included here. I know I want to see a little bit of scapula. I'll have to hop in a minute. Just the reality of my situation today. I'm grateful. I mean, even if this client only needs me for 3 to 4 hours, it's still billable. I'll still make some money, and I'm grateful for that, It's not gonna be something that's really gonna pan out bigly, but long term, because it's a new client, it may go somewhere. You never know what will be the there you go. All right, Zach, see you next time. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. We'll just save. Oh, I don't even know if I've saved yet today. See, I like to live dangerously by saving infrequently and crashing often. Okay, I'm gonna also save a new version because files do get corrupted. So, especially if you're saving metrics are bad like mine, yeah. Save early, save often. Don't do what I do, kids. Save your work. Okay. So it's saved. We had a good little stream. I got most of the skeleton in there. And not a bad kickoff to the week. So, all right. I love you guys for having anything to do with this. It's honestly a pleasure. So join me next time. And I look forward to it as well. All right. Bye-bye.